Welcome back to Satori Graphics, and today I have a pretty special video for you guys to watch, where you can follow along with my creative process designing a social media campaign using Milanotes. Now Milanotes is in fact sponsoring today's video, and I've showcased them on my channel many times before because I do believe Milanotes is an excellent resource for when you're logo designing or going through any kind of creative process. I'm ready to launch my subscription-based website, which is going to have loads of vectors, courses, and exclusive content for you guys to watch. And so I'm actually going to design a social media campaign, and you're going to come along for the journey in today's video.
So here is my homepage on Milanotes, and you're going to notice how clean and user-friendly the interface is. Now along the right-hand side are a few folders containing workflow materials for other projects that I've previously been working on. So let's create a folder for my social media artwork that I want to publicize the launch of my website with. Now in Milanotes, each project folder is known as a board, and you simply click and drag a board onto the workspace like so. Let's go ahead and give it a relevant name for my social media artwork project. As you can see, you can change the color code of the board's thumbnail, which is very useful for your navigation and your workflow when using Milanotes. Also, you can add an actual icon to the thumbnail too. I will show you a bit more about this later, as there are many different options for the icons here. But I'm going to upload an image for the thumbnail, and that can be done like so. Double-clicking my brand new project board leads us into the workspace. I'm now going to set up the foundations for my project by creating boards within boards. I'm going to make a board for each part of my project. So firstly, one for typography research and development for the social media artwork. Now Milanotes is pretty smart. It's seen that I've labelled this typography and the icon matches the title, quite rightly so. Now for this yellow board here, I'm going to work on the imagery of myself for the social media artwork, and that's going to entail taking, pictures of myself. And so I want to use a camera icon for this board just for relevancy's sake. I can search camera right here, and Milanotes does in fact have different icons for this board, which is very handy indeed. So for now, these are the folders within my project board that I'm going to utilize throughout the entire project. Each folder relates to a different part of my project, and you probably can already see how organized and how much easier my life is going to be as a designer when using Milanotes. Better yet, I can drag onto the workspace a to-do list, which I'm actually going to utilize throughout the entire project. Simply write in a task that needs finishing or addressing, and then hit enter on your keyboard to come down to the next task. You can of course tick the box on the left hand side when you complete each individual task. My Satori Graphics brand heavily revolves around the colour purple, and it's become the kind of cornerstone to my brand identity over time. So the social media artwork that I'm going to design for the launch of my website obviously is going to incorporate the colour purple. Now Milanotes has a new and a neat feature where you can create mood boards by coming down to this option here. You can choose either to keep the allocated slots and then edit them yourself, or you can clear the existing imagery and the options. A very neat feature is that you can see there are options for hex color codes right here. So I can actually head into Illustrator, copy a relevant hex color code like so, and then paste it into Milanotes and hit enter on the keyboard. I also can right or control click a design element on my mood board and then duplicate the item. So I can then go ahead and edit the hex color code for differing color swatches completely on the fly. So finally for my mood board, let's add some inspirational content based around the colour purple to get a feel of the kind of hues and swatches that I want to be using for my design.
I can upload files straight from my computer here, or I can search for specific keywords from Milanotes. And as you can see, a simple search for purple provides many results, to which I can then click and drag onto my board. So you can build up a neat online mood board for the development of your design using Milanotes, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing for my project. I've even chosen some purple examples of typography because I'm actually going to heavily use typography, and you'll see that later in the video. But yeah, typography is going to be a big part of my design. As part of my research phase with Milanotes, I generated the idea of using a double exposure effect on myself for the social media artwork itself. Now, how do you actually go about making this effect? Well, you need to open up your image in Photoshop and then grab the quick selection tool. Now you want to use a somewhat low number for the brush size and then select yourself on the image. When you have the selection highlighted, right or control click the image and then choose feather. I'm going to add a 0.5 feather that will help smoothen the edges later in the design. Now simply press Command or Control J and that will make a cropped duplication onto a new layer without the background. Now we can remove the original layer and then we can go ahead and add a colour fill to a new layer like so. And we're going to use white. You are then going to want to source a high resolution image, and the image on screen now isn't the one I used for the final design. I'm just showing you the kind of creative process I went through. I bring the image onto your design and lower the opacity down to 50% so you can see where to best place the image. You can control or right click the image and then flip it horizontally if that's going to help you. Now once the image is in place, raise the opacity back to 100%. With the high res image layer selected, right or control click the image of yourself below to create a selection, and then create a clipping mask at the very bottom. So next, we need to hold down the Alt Option key and then click and drag to duplicate the image of yourself. Now it's best to desaturate both images of yourself, and I forgot to do that in the video and I only desaturated one of them. Now on the top layer, change its blend mode to lighten, which will show some of the background through yourself, and then create a clipping mask. So you now should have two layers with a clipping mask, to which you can take the brush tool, B being the shortcut on your keyboard, and then use a black colour to carefully paint over the selection in the clipping mask windows. Now depending which layer you choose, one will erase the image of yourself, and the other will erase the background image. Now on the background layer, double click it and then sample the colour somewhere on your image. This will help to blend the entire design into itself later. Now we're close to finishing the double exposure design, but for now press Command or Control J on this layer here, and then click and drag the black mask part of the layer to the trash can, and then select Delete. We want to change this layer's blend mode over to lighten, and then I actually went to lower the opacity, but you shouldn't do that. I did change the opacity back later. However, you should hold down the Alt Option key and then click the layer mask window to make a black mask. On this layer, you can use the brush tool and a white colour to blend the hair into the background if you so wish. Now back to my actual social media artwork project. In Milanotes on my mood board, I generated various different colour swatches for the purple colours on my design. I can just copy the hex colour codes like so, and then come back to my design and paste it in. Now this is one of the best things about Milanotes' new mood board feature. I have easy access to my ideas and my thought streams whilst working on my design because it's all online, it's all there on my screen just to revert back to throughout my workflow.
As I've mentioned before, typography can make or break a design, so it's really important to make a plan of action for your typography. And as you can see on the screen now, I have various different fonts with their IDs as well as a font preview. These fonts have been selected by me through research, and all you need to do is to locate the font files on your computer and then drag and drop them into Milanote. It simply is that easy. You can then make some notes or maybe then display them in a certain way to determine which fonts you want to be using for your designs. On the left I have my fonts for possible headings, where large uses of typography are going to be, and then on the right I have my main body text fonts. Now it is important to font pair, and I've tried to choose fonts that work well together as a team. Now also, you can search in the image source in Milanote for inspiration on fonts and typography. There are lots of choices open to you as a user in Milanote when looking at typography for your designs. Now here is the first of 3 possible designs for the artwork, and I've used typography in a kind of minimal way, but it is bold and it does stand out and it does do its job. Less is more, especially for grabbing attention such as on a social media artwork design. The second design is actually more minimal in general, with just the website displayed in the main body text font choice and the artwork in the middle. Now I actually really like this design because it's quite simple and minimal. And the last design is pretty much like the first one, utilizing that bold font for attention grabbing text. So finally today, here is a brief summary of how my design process has been undertaken using Milanote. The to-do list on the left was essential for me, as I like to keep stages and key aspects of the process down in writing. Then you can see the relevant boards that I've used for my project, all gathered in a neat column here. Then the 3 design outcomes are on the right of that, all of which I'm really happy with, to be honest, but I do think I could still work on them in the future before I use them for the social media campaign. And the final step for me is to save the final designs to the relevant sizes and formats for each social media platform. So for example, Instagram is obviously going to be a square canvas, and then YouTube might even incorporate some motion graphics or even video content using my designs. Now to keep everything neat like this, I simply use the column function in Milanote, and I suggest you do that too to keep things more organized. So there was today's video using Milanote to create a social media campaign for my subscription-based website. Like I said before, check the links down in the description box below to learn everything about Milanote and how it can boost your creative workflow as a graphic designer. I don't just use Milanote for graphic design, I also use it for my YouTube channel and just keeping up to date with things as well. But yeah, subscribe to my channel for weekly graphic design content as a means to boost your skills and awareness as a graphic designer. And of course, like and share my videos on social media, and until next time, design your future today. Peace.